with the Congolese Presbyterian Church, the CPC. John works with them in their medical department, and I work in their education department. The CPC has 702 elementary and secondary schools that they run in 2 provinces. These are some of the kids we'd like to have in those schools. I like to point out here, this little boy is holding what is the most popular plaything in a Congolese village. It's a homemade soccer ball. They take plastic grocery sacks.
Ce sont des cordes, hein? Oui.
And put them together, tie them up with strings, and they have a ball. Soccer is a very popular sport in Congo. This is a typical rural school. You'll see that the kids sit on the floor and don't have desks. The 2 little guys here in chairs brought those chairs with them from home. This is a common sight at the beginning of every school year in September. The kids are responsible for bringing a load of thatch with them that's then used to repair the roofs on their school. We have 9 months of rain every year, so having a good roof is very important. Even though the church runs these 702 schools, they are public schools. And even though they're public schools, they're not free schools. The parents are still responsible for the bulk of the fees that have to be paid. The government does pay some salaries sometimes, but they don't pay very much, and it's not very regular. The school fees are modest by U.S. standards. In elementary school, for tuition, shoes, uniforms, and supplies, it'll cost about $40 per student per year. In secondary school, that's $50 per student per year. But 71% of the population in Congo lives on less than $1 a day, and most families are large, 5 or more children, so it's very difficult for families to pay even those modest amounts. Secondary school in Congo is a little bit different than in the U.S. It's a 6-year cycle, what would be the equivalent of junior high and high school here. The first 2 years are general studies, and the last 4 years are a targeted study. Someone who wants to be a teacher would be in a pedagogy cycle. Someone who wants to go into medicine would study biology, chemistry. And we have more vocational tracks, which would be sewing, carpentry, mechanics, that sort of thing.
The IMCK high school level nursing school is among the best in the country. Our graduates are highly sought after. For the last several years, we've had 100% of our students pass, which is an amazing record here in Congo, and they get very good grades on their exams. So it's an excellent nursing school. It's one of 2 nursing schools, I believe, in Congo that has a computer center. The electricity here at the institution enables us to have computers for the students to use, and that gives them a real leg up in their learning.
Another difference between public schools in Congo and in the U.S. is that there's no prohibition against teaching religion. And the CPC takes very seriously its responsibility and privilege to teach these kids about God's love and grace, and they have a very active Christian education curriculum throughout the 12 years of school. The qualification to be an elementary school teacher in Congo is a high school diploma. We don't have enough qualified candidates, so we will accept an elementary school teacher who has completed the equivalent of 10th grade. To be a secondary school teacher, someone is supposed to have a bachelor's degree. Again, we don't have enough qualified candidates, so we will accept a secondary school teacher who has a high school diploma. This is a common sight in many of our classrooms, a student who is responsible for a younger sibling. Usually it's a girl, but sometimes it's a boy. We're always glad to have the student there, though, so there's no problem with them bringing the little ones. We can have as many as 100 children in a classroom. Our 702 schools are divided into 3 geographical regions, and statistics for one of those regions, which are comparable throughout all 3 regions, show that in the 2010-2011 school year, we had 16,000 children enrolled in 1st grade. And at that point we had gender parity, about 8,000 boys, 8,000 girls. But for that same year, our statistics show us that we had only 2,000 kids who graduated from high school, and of those 2,000, only 300 were girls. So there's a huge drop-off over the years for all of the kids, but particularly for girls. Studies have shown that one of the factors that increases the retention of girls in schools is adequate latrines. If they have sanitation facilities, particularly after they reach puberty, they are more likely to stay in school. The CPC recognizes that there's a lot to do to improve our schools. They've developed a strategic plan that has 5 major components. one of which is to improve infrastructure. We'd like all of our schools to look like this: fired brick walls, tin roofs, cement floors, and septic-connected latrines. We also would like them to have desks and supplies. Right now, only 17% of our 702 schools are made out of durable materials. Another priority we have is to provide transportation for our supervisors. Some of our supervisors have to travel as far as 150 miles on foot to visit the schools for which they are responsible. We find that if we can get the motorcycles, they're able to get out more often and give the teachers and principals the kind of support that they need. Another priority the CPC has identified is training. As I mentioned, many of our teachers are underqualified, and the number one request from our CPC teachers is more training. With a grant from Presbyterian Women, through their birthday offering, we were able to hold a number of teaching seminars. These are elementary school teachers who have just completed a week-long training to reinforce their skills in teaching reading, writing, and math. At the end, they wanted to say thank you to Presbyterian Women. Notice that the sign is in French. The language of education in Congo is French. And we also thank Presbyterian Women. Presbyterian Women have been the backbone of missions globally, and certainly in Congo we have benefited a great deal from their generosity, and we're very, very grateful to PW for all they've done to support us. A fourth priority the CPC has identified is textbooks for teachers. We want to provide teachers textbooks in all subjects at all levels.
Most of our teachers teach using the notes they took in high school, or for those who were fortunate enough to go to college, the notes they took during college.
Through a grant instigated by Bill Sager of Ashland, Oregon, we were able to receive a matching grant from Rotary International in conjunction with the Kananga Rotary and the Ashland Rotary that gave us $46,000, with which we were able to buy textbooks for teachers. We bought math textbooks and French textbooks for all of our secondary schools, and geography and history textbooks for all of our elementary schools. This was a huge deal in Congo. It made national news, and it was an enormous boost to the morale of our teachers. And a fifth priority that the CPC has identified is to increase the enrollment and retention of girl students. Right now, only 17% of girls in sub-Saharan Africa attend secondary school. We're working on this with a number of different projects, one of which is an after-school program to teach English and computer skills to high school girls. Again, that project was made possible by Presbyterian Women, this time through their thank offering.
Notice that many of these keyboards are QWERTY keyboards. The French keyboard is called an AZERTY keyboard, and the keys are in a little bit different order, and they have keys that have accents. These keyboards and most of these computers were donated by a hospital in the United States that was changing out computers. So these are English keyboards, but they have very cleverly changed with a piece of paper, noted on the keys what the changes are, and then changed the software to match with that, and have adapted them to French needs.
Moi, je serai maître. L'informatique va m'aider de saisir mes TP et d'aider les autres.
L'informatique va m'aider dans ma vie parce que je ne pouvais pas continuer avec mes études à l'université. Si je savais bien saisir les choses, je dois bien vivre.
Actuellement, dans notre pays ici, pour engager une personne, on demande les CV. Des conditions, avoir la maîtrise de l'informatique, avoir la maîtrise de l'anglais. En tout cas, ce que les missionnaires ont fait pour nos jeunes filles ici, c'est très important parce qu'elles sont déjà épargnées à ces critères-là.
Ce programme est très important parce que ça contribue à l'épanouissement de nos jeunes. Et actuellement, l'informatique coûte énormément cher. Ce n'est pas possible qu'une fille telle qu'elle est là, ou soit ses parents à partir de la maison, puissent facilement supporter cette formation du début à la fin. Ça coûte cher quand même. Alors comme la formation est supportée par nos bienfaiteurs de l'Amérique, en tout cas ce sont des personnes à encourager, ce sont des personnes à remercier profondément.
Ça, nous sommes déjà à la deuxième année. On a déjà formé, nos produits sont sur terrain. D'autres travaillent déjà quelque part. Les enfants qu'on a encadrés l'année passée, ils sont déjà capables à postuler quelque part et travailler pour leur vie. Ça, c'est la deuxième année. Si ça continuait, je pense, nous allons très bien aider notre société et d'autres pays doivent se retrouver aussi quelque part, surtout que nous sommes en train de penser et nous sommes à la veille de la mondialisation. Que les bailleurs, que nos partenaires ne puissent pas se fatiguer. En tout cas, nous sommes en train de plaider pour la génération future, qu'on puisse soutenir nos petites ici pour leur avenir. C'est ce qu'on pouvait dire.
Welcome in the Marshall Center. The Marshall Center is the center for spoken English here in Kananga.
I learned English in the Marshall Center. My teacher English are Mr. Douglas and Willie.
My will is to speak English one day, and I think my future family will be an English speaker.
I like English much more, and I learn English every day. And I introduce my teacher, Mr. Douglas and Mr. Willie.
My name is Willie Lushimba. In 1968, I was born at Moma, an old Presbyterian mission. My father took me and all the family at Chikaji. I was healthy, I was with friends like every child. I passed in the second form, third form, and fourth form. I was very, very sick that year. And after 2 months, the doctor told my father, no, this disease doesn't have a cure, and it is difficult for your guy to be healed. And my father asked him what kind of disease that can't be cured. He told him that it was polio. And all the family was upset because there was no hope for me. My father was a mechanic, was working with Presbyterian missionaries. One of the doctor, Dr. Rambo, who was taking care of me there, told my father, no, don't be discouraged. We must hope that God can do something for your child. He told my father, no, don't worry about this problem, because once in the United States we had a president who was a cripple, and you can't worry about it. My father said, no, there is no problem. After 2 years, and I returned again at school, I studied. It was very good because I was very clever. I studied and I made a good grade. After that time, I went to my secondary school, which is again a Presbyterian school. I went there, I studied 6 years, and I didn't fail. It was very, very good for me, and I succeeded. Everybody was astonished about that. Dr. Nelson's wife gave me money in order to support my university. And I did again 3 years in university. I succeeded. It was very good. After that time, I returned again at home because there was no job. In our family, we were 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. My older sister, who was taking care of me, died when I finished university. I lost her, and I stayed with my mother and all the others in my family. After that, my mother was taking care of the family because my father had other wives. And after that, it was in 1999, my mother died, and I lost her again. By that time, it was difficult for me to survive. But with the prayers of friends and what I got as decision in order to teach English, I overcome all the challenges and I'm able to live by myself. My heartfelt thanks to Presbyterians for what they did For the first, if I am alive today, it is because of them. If they weren't there, I couldn't be alive. I could be killed by this disease. But I was saved because of Presbyterian. Their school are very good school. Students have a good level and they study and follow a good program. That gives a good education to our children. And thanks a lot for them for all that they have done for my country. May God bless them. As a man, there is nothing to give them, but God Himself will reward them one day. Thanks.
And that brings us back to the kids. The CPC, in partnership with American Presbyterians, and by the grace of God, wants to give these kids a future and a hope.